Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment in our Retrospective Figure Showcase series, where I'll take a look at an older figure that's been displayed in my collection, or one that I haven't unboxed that has been never opened and it's just been in storage for some time. And of course, we'll do a quick review and posing session. So today's figure is the US Army Ranger with M249 machine gun from Hot Toys. And again, there's a little history here for Hot Toys, going back to their origins as a 6-scale military figure manufacturer. And even here, I think you're going to start noticing that they were already improving their sculpts, and a lot of these 6-scale military figures, they were starting to use some celebrity likeness. So I do have a number of military figures in my collection. In fact, that's one of the first things that attracted me to 6-scale, because I think you'll see as we go through that these figures are some of the most detailed pieces you could possibly own and have in your collection. And look, this is an older figure releasing around 2005, so we're talking almost 20 years old, and yet I still think it holds up incredibly well. Which is a testament to the great work Hot Toys was doing even back then. And I think the kit that the figure is wearing does date him, as in my almost 20 years, as there's been some evolution in both gear and uniforms. And I'll say that in my almost 20 years of collecting 6-scale figures, these always end up being some of the most visually stunning pieces you'll have. I always find myself absolutely studying them. The incredible detail work on the uniforms, the kit, the radio equipment, the weapons. It's just some of the most incredible work I've seen in this scale. But as incredible as these figures can be, they're also some of the most frustrating to work with. All that detail work and gear has to be put on the figures. Unlike Hot Toys or modern Hot Toys or other companies that pretty much give you the figure fully set up, military releases require you to kit the figure up. And look, that's always been part of the appeal and the fun of these, but this is where tools come in handy, especially with having to install pouches and the like. And to be honest, this figure is not even one of the heavier kits to install, and it was still frustrating at times. But let's look at all the equipment he comes with, and you can tell off the bat that it's a lot. Now, this figure came with molded hands and no spares, so he's intended to be holding his machine gun or one of the other guns at all times. But as you can see, there are weapons, radio equipment, helmets with helmet-specific accessories, an entire vest with corresponding pouches, essentially an entire slew of accessories to fully equip him. So to avoid going on for too long, I'm going to group pieces together, and we'll start with the M249 machine gun. And it comes with an interesting gray camo style paint scheme with a sight mounted on the top rails. This thing is gorgeous, but it is a little bit dated, just based on more modern military releases, which do tend to have a little bit more detail on the weaponry. But again, it doesn't distract from how good this is. You also get 2 ammo boxes and a belt of bullets to slide into one of the boxes and then place onto the gun. Pretty straightforward, although the gun actually does have a ton of moving parts, including a working handle, a working set of legs to stand the gun up, and the upper portion of the machine gun does lift and flip up to allow you to put the belt in. And there is a functioning charging handle as well that's spring-loaded. It's a beautiful piece, but all that detail work comes with a price. You have to handle this with care. There are a lot of components here that if you try to brute force the piece, you're going to almost be guaranteed to break something. Next up, you get 2 additional weapons, including a shotgun and a pistol. Believe the pistol might be a Beretta on a lanyard. Now, you also get a drop-down thigh holster for the gun, and an interesting little tie that gets placed onto the figure's vest and then holds the shotgun to the figure via a Velcro strap. It was definitely an interesting way of doing that. Now, as far as the weapons themselves, the shotgun doesn't contain any moving parts, so it's just molded plastic, but it looks decent. And the pistol does have a functioning slide and a removable clip, so nicely done overall, and just helps to kit up the figure a little bit more. Next up, you get the helmet and the comm gear. This is one of the first things that does date the figure too. New helmets have built-in tracks on the sides for the radio gear, whereas here you get the headset that's meant to slide underneath the helmet. Helmet also includes a number of components, like a night vision scope that gets mounted at the front of the helmet. More on that later. A battery pack and some additional pieces that go on the sides of the piece. Not sure exactly what they're for, but assembly on these is a little tedious, and you also get a red light for the helmet on an elastic band, which can be a little frustrating to get to look just right. Now next you get some other pieces like a pair of knee pads that are nicely detailed, a pair of good looking sunglasses, a clip just to hold things to his vest, a watch, and some chemical lights in different colors. As well as I think it might be an attachment to a Camelback drinking pouch. Not sure, but all the pieces look nice and are very well detailed, and again help bring the figure a little more to life. Now the next pieces all relate to the vest. The vest itself is an incredible looking setup, very much dependent on, I believe it's called MOLLE, M-O-L-L-E, which I think stands for Modular Lightweight Load Carrying Equipment. If I got it wrong, just correct me. But it's basically all these pieces of sewn-in webbing that creates rows of attachment points to essentially allow you to thread in and customize equipment layouts. So everything you see here is going to get attached to that vest, including the backpack, which comes with a series of straps that you have to interlace into the vest webbing and back into the backpack to lock things in. At 6 scale, it's a bit of a nightmare to deal with, to be honest. Plus, some of the web connectors aren't actually wide enough to accommodate the straps, so it's a chore to get these set up, and I actually had to stop, and I ended up using some fabric tack to hold the pieces in place until I could figure out a better alternate. But you get a bunch of pouches for spare ammo, for the radio, and so on, and you also get armored plates, which look great. So overall, really nice looking set, but frustrating to put together. Now, this is almost 20 years old, but even here, you're kind of starting to see some improvements in the sculpt, especially when compared to the F-18 pilot I looked at earlier, which looked very plasticky. Here, Hot Toys toned down the shine on the skin and basically started improving their paint apps. Overall, this is a pretty solid sculpt on its own, and I may be seeing things, but sometimes, like I mentioned at the start, with these figures, we can get a celebrity sculpt thrown in. I do see a little Edward Norton on this guy, but I could be wrong. Only other slight knock, they painted the eyes looking to the side, so it does limit poses if you're not using the sunglasses. But again, decent sculpt for a figure that really won't need it much, because most of the face is going to be covered or have some gear over it, but still good effort by Hot Toys. Now the rest of the figure comes pre-equipped with a vest on top of a great jacket, some camo pants, and sculpted boots. Tailoring on all these are just amazing, and the detailing on the jacket, the vest, and the material they chose for the pants all look really impressive. And even not kit up, I still think the figure looks good. Also, thankfully, the flexi hands are gone, and Hot Toys replaced them with the now more standard plastic molded hands, which just look better overall, or at least I think they do. Detail work on the boots is also top notch. This is one thing I will say, as a historical figure in the Hot Toys history books, you can see them honing their craft on this type of release. And a lot of what they learned here made its way to their licensed products. But you're not getting these figures to display without the equipment and gear loaded on. So let's look at what he looks like almost fully kit up. And off the bat, I'll say the figure has presence to it. And you're seeing it on the rotating table without the machine gun or the helmet, and just with the vest and all the gear on, and the figure, especially from a profile view, looks imposing. Details on all the packs on the radio kit and the headset all look amazing. And the headset being much simpler, of course, than what I had to set up with the easy and simple Air Force controller, was easier to make look good. But that's also because, again, this piece is based on an older military kit, and technology has evolved from when this was released. But he looks great. I'm not sure if that's translating via the video, but in hand, you start looking at this figure and it's hard not to be astounded by the work that went into it. So look, overall, I say it all the time. If you want to be impressed with a figure, pick up a military 6-scale release. You will be blown away by the detail work, and you will also be extremely frustrated. And this isn't like a Hot Toys unboxing where you take the figure out of the box, put together some pieces, and you're done. It does require a decent amount of time to get the pieces loaded up on the figure and also to look right. While it looks impressive, even hanging the machine gun on the figure is going to be potentially something you're going to have to watch out for, because it has the propensity of shifting things around on the kit. So the entire setup can be extremely delicate, and you need to take your time posing. And just be careful. It's not a brute force type of figure. Now with the helmet, this is an even more impressive release, but that mounted night vision scope, painful to deal with. That's the story with this guy. The mount holding the scope is impressive in the detailing, and the moving parts, which essentially let you move the scope up and down, and also have a track that lets you shift the scope forward and back on a secondary rail. If you look closely at the mechanism, it is beyond impressive, but also feels extremely delicate. So every time I was moving things around, I was sweating because I thought I was going to break this. In position, looks amazing, but this was a bit of an ordeal to deal with. But look, overall, it is a stunning piece. I know these releases and figures don't get much hype in the YouTube community, or maybe it's just that the YouTube algorithms haven't flagged some of these for me. There are a few channels that cover them, but not as popular as your Star Wars or Marvel figures. But I will say this, visually, these are as impressive, if not more so, than any other figures I have in my collection. And as frustrating as putting them together is, you do get a sense of accomplishment when you're able to see the full figure come together and when you start posing it up. It's really worth the curses and blisters you'll get trying to put everything in place. And for an older figure, I think it's a great piece of Hot Toys history and an amazing piece in its own right. So very happy to have in my collection. And look, I have a few other military releases, including some older soldier story ones that need to get unboxed. Let me know if there's any interest in those, and regardless, let me know what you think about this Hot Toys US Army Ranger. And as always, thanks for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.